Hey friend, if you're a military spouse photographer coming up on a PCS, chances are you have questions about the legal process. I know I always do. While I'm not a lawyer, I have learned a few things from my past PCSs, and I'd love to share a little part of my process with you. Before we dive into that though, I do have a free gift for you as well. It is a digital download that has my top 5 tips for getting your business ready for your next PCS. I'll link it in the description below and hope you find that helpful. Now, the first part of your process is to figure out how you actually want to move the business entity. If you're operating as an LLC, you have 2 main options for this. You could keep your LLC in its current state and register as a foreign LLC in your new state, or you could dissolve your LLC in the current state and then register as a new LLC in the new state. Now, there's some pros and cons to each way, so I will do my best to explain some of those, and then you can decide which ones make more sense for your business. Now, if you decide to keep your LLC in the current state and register as a foreign LLC in the new state, the first pro of that is that there's no lapse in LLC coverage. So obviously it takes a little bit of time to dissolve in one place and restart in another. And if you happen to be doing business in the interim, you wouldn't necessarily be covered by an active LLC if you're in the process of dissolving and restarting. But if you keep your LLC active in one state and you're just registering as a foreign LLC in the new state, then you still have that coverage from your initial LLC. Another pro is that you would have one central location for your LLC for tax purposes. So for me, I do this in my home of record state. So I have both my LLC in Ohio, which is also where my husband and I are residents of, and that just makes things a little bit easier for taxes. As I'm sure you know, as a military spouse, having different things in different states can be particularly challenging. And so this is just one less thing to worry about if you have that central place for your LLC. Now, the con of doing it this way is that it could be more expensive, and for a couple of reasons. First, as I'm sure you know, there's annual fees associated with LLCs in different states. And so if you have your LLC in one state and a foreign LLC in another state, you're going to be responsible for those annual fees in both places. You might also need additional legal assistance in order to get a foreign LLC set up. I learned this in Virginia. When I was filling out the paperwork, I learned that I needed a registered agent that was a Virginia resident. And since I am not a Virginia resident, I couldn't be my own registered agent like I could in, say, Ohio, where my business is set up. So I ended up working with a lawyer, which honestly, side note on that, the whole experience was wonderful. She was great to work with. I have the confidence of knowing that everything was set up correctly, but it is an extra cost that I incurred. So I would say if it's in the budget to work with a lawyer, definitely do that. But if not, this could be a slightly more expensive option just because you're going to have the fees in both states anyways. Now, if you choose to dissolve your LLC in the current state and register as a new LLC in your new state, your pros and cons really flip. You might have a lapse in coverage and you won't have this central location for your business for tax purposes, but it would be the more cost-efficient option because you won't be responsible for having fees in multiple states, and you might be able to fill the paperwork out yourself. Now, an LLC isn't the only type of business you might be running, but the options for moving other types are going to be similar. If you're looking for information on how to move a sole proprietor or an S Corp or something else, I would recommend visiting your state's Secretary of State website for the most up-to-date information. More on that in a minute. Now, step 2, before you jump into any forms, I would recommend gathering all of your business details. Nothing is scarier than opening up a form like this and having no idea either what it's asking for or where to even find this information. Whether you're registering as a foreign LLC or you're dissolving an LLC, the type of information that's going to be asked for is the same, so I would recommend getting these pieces of information. First, you want your articles of organization. That's going to have your effective date on it, as well as your registered agent's address if you've used someone other than yourself. You're also going to want your FEIN number, your federal employer ID number. This is a number issued by the IRS to you for tax purposes for identifying your business. And then you'll also want to have your principal office address. This is likely your home address if that's where you've registered your business, but if you have a studio or if you're working out of somewhere else, it might be that address. So you'll just want to make sure that you have that handy. Once you have all of this in front of you, step 3 is to head to your Secretary of State's website. Now, hear me out. I know it can be easier to read a photographer's blog or someone else's blog about how you can move your business from one place to the next, but it is really, really important that you are getting information directly from your state. So I know the government doesn't write really easy to read and enticing, exciting websites, but this is really where you want to go. Now, if you do a search just for your state's Secretary of State website, it might be the first or second option that comes up. But if you search something like registering as a foreign LLC in Colorado, it could be the third, the fourth, the fifth option. What's really important is that you're looking for a .gov website, and that's the one that you want to go to. Now, why do I harp on this? It's because everything you care about, everything that makes sure that you are running a legitimate business in the state that you're in will vary from state to state. We're talking annual fees, registered agent rules, taxes, all of these important things. Each state has a different rule for it, and they change over time. So it is so important that you're going to a reliable, credible source and getting your information from there. If you still feel overwhelmed after you've gotten started on your forms, I highly recommend reaching out to a CPA or a small business lawyer to get you set up. Very few photographers start businesses because they're experts in the business side of things, let alone taxes, which we're going to talk about in the next video. So take advantage of help if you can. Regardless of what you do, though, I highly recommend making a plan, gathering those business details, and using reliable information. Thanks so much for watching. If you don't know me, I'm Erin, teacher turned photographer, and I love helping fellow military spouse photographers build businesses that thrive despite the frequent moves that the military brings into our life. Interacting with students is the best part of teaching for me, so if you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I will be more than happy to help. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.